Hello friends and welcome to Smart Coach. As you might have understood, this is a question session, and for our question session today I have picked up growth of the administrative structure of British rule, that is the legislations, and we will be focusing on the legislations till the 1858 Government of India Act. Okay, so this is a modern Indian history question session dealing solely with the legislations, that is the various acts that were passed. All right, now let us move forward and let us appreciate what kind of questions might come and where the questions might come from in your MCQ examinations, and also we will also look into the probabilities of areas from where questions will come. All right, so now these are the important acts that you have to focus on. That is the firstly the Regulating Act of 1773. Then there is the Pitt's India Act, okay, passed right after the Regulating Act in 1784. Then there is the Charter Act of 1813 and 33. They have reasons why there are reasons why I picked up the Charter Act of 1813 and 1833, because these two Charter Acts are quite seminal when it comes to the administration of India. All right, 1813 and 1833, it defines the role of the British East India Company vis-a-vis the administrative role that it is going to play, and also it defines the mercantile role that the British East India Company is going to play in India. All right, and then we have got the Government of India Act of 1858, the most important act in this entire section, because it is through this Government of India Act, as you might know, that the British Crown took over her possessions in India, that is the territorial possessions in India, and also the revenue and administrative possession of India. Okay, now moving forward, we have to look into certain important topics. Okay, now when you are studying individual legislations, where do you actually focus upon? Okay, there are areas within individual legislation where you have to put more focus than other areas of that same legislation, because the provisions of each legislation is going to be very vast, and it won't be humanly possible for you to remember all of the provisions, and therefore there are areas from which questions come. All right, and these areas are the areas where you have to focus. Now, new institutions, what does it mean? Well, if any Charter Act is creating a new institution, if any Government of India Act is creating a new institution or a new office, or it is bringing in certain fundamental changes within the administration of India, this is the area which you have to look into while reading the acts. Okay, so now moving forward, we also get the new appointments. All right, so various acts provide for the appointment of various individuals and offices, and these acts providing individuals and appointments for individuals and offices, you have to study them carefully, such as the first Governor General of India or the first Governor General of Bengal. All of these acts you have to study properly and carefully. Okay, you have to remember the names and the dates when these changes came about. Then we have got the dissolution of older structure, that is certain acts do what? They dissolve the previous administrative structure, they also dissolve previous administrative units, okay, and then create new order. All right, so you have to know and you have to focus on the dissolution of older structure also, and then you have to focus on renaming of positions also. In this case, the most important being that the Governor General of India was made the Viceroy of India in 1858. These kind of details also you have to keep in your mind. Okay. Now, moving forward, let us look at the first sample question, which is, which Charter Act can be considered the genesis of the ICS? Correct answer is Charter Act of 1853. Okay, the Charter Act of 1853 provided for the competitive examinations for Indian civil services. Okay, the stronghold of the Court of Directors to appoint or nominate Indian civil servants into the administration of India, it was taken away. All right, this provision takes away the favor that was granted upon the Board of Directors to nominate officers into the ICS, and from then on, from the beginning of the Charter Act of 1853, we see that competitive exams are being held in London, and later on competitive exams will also be held simultaneously in England and in India. Okay, moving forward, which act ended the company's monopoly over tea trade? All right, I have deliberately picked up the tea trade because the 1813 Act, it takes away the company's monopoly over trade, but it retains the company's monopoly over the trade in tea. Okay, because at that point of time it was very important and crucial that the company keeps a hold over the tea trade because of the whole triangular the scene of triangular trading with China, India, okay, and Britain. All right, this triangular trading system was going on, and it was quite crucial for British India to keep the tea trade within the within the British East India Company. Okay, however, by the Charter Act of 1833, we see that laissez-faire properly kicks into effect in India, okay, and free trade is given full potential after 1833, because the 1833 Act, it stipulates that you see, company will have no monopoly over trading in India. In fact, trade is open to all players, okay, and it also states that a company from now on will play only a, you see, administrative rule, that is, it will start administering the country only, okay, and no trading privileges will be given to the British East India Company, okay. Now, moving forward, by which act the Governor General of Fort Williams was made the Governor General of India. Now, previously the Governor General of Bengal was known as the Governor General of Fort William, okay. However, the Charter Act of 1833 made Lord William Bentinck the first Governor General of India, okay. He was made the Governor General of India, responsible for the administration of the provinces of Bombay and Madras also. Why is this act important? Because this act shows that the British were trying to centralize their administration in India, okay. This is a period starting from the Regulating Act of 1773 up until the, you see, Government of India Act of 1858. This entire period was a period of centralization, and within the scheme of centralization, it was made possible that the you see, provinces of Bombay and Madras was made you see, subservient to the province of Bengal. Now, if you are making a province, if you are making these two provinces subservient to the province of Bengal, there should be one administrative head who takes care of the administration of Bombay and Madras also. This person was made, therefore, the Governor General of India. The Governor General of Fort William, who looked after the administration of Bengal, was now made the Governor General of India, and he will look after the Indian you see, administration of the entirety of the British Indian provinces, okay, that is Bengal, you see, Bombay and Madras also. Who was the first Governor General of India? Lord William Bentinck, and it was made possible through the Charter Act of 1833. Very important act, therefore, you have to keep that in mind, all right. Now, moving forward, the Board of Control and Court of Directors was introduced by which act? Of course, it is the Pitt India Act of 1784. Starting with the Regulating Act, there was that is in 1773, there was a growing tendency for holding the company accountable, okay, accountable for their administration in India. The Regulating Act, as the name suggests, it was passed in order to regularize the affairs of the company within India, okay. It was passed so that, you see, allegations of corruptions which had been coming in, all right, from India to England about the company officials, those things can be handled with properly. Therefore, the Regulation Act was passed. However, the Pitt India Act was also passed so that the, you see, governance of India can be further regularized and streamlined. And to do this, what happened is that there were two institutions created, the Board of Control and the Court of Directors, okay. Court of Directors, of course, it belongs to the proprietors of the company per se, and the Board of Control was the mechanism through which administration was overseen, all right. Board of Control controlled the administrative scenario of British India, okay. This is the institution which linked British East India, okay, or British India with the British Parliament. It is through the Board of Control that the administration of British India is linked to the British Parliament, all right. Therefore, the Board of Control is the chief body, and Court of Directors, of course, you see, Court of Directors is also, you see, has to work in conjunction with the Board of Control, and this was done through the Pitt India Act of 1784. It was named Pitt India Act because it was passed by the British Prime Minister at that point of time, William Pitt, all right. Now, moving forward, the first Supreme Court of Judicature was instituted through which act? Now, before we move into the Regulating Act of 1773, as we already talked about, this act tries to provide a regulation of the company's affairs within India, all right. The Supreme Court, the first Supreme Court, was also instituted through the Regulating Act of 1773. However, what was the name of the first Supreme Court? The name of the first Supreme Court was the Supreme Court of Fort William, because it was located within Fort William in Calcutta, all right, in the Bengal Presidency. So, it was known as the Supreme Court of Fort William. Who was the first, you see, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Fort William? Sir Elijah Impey, okay, very important to note. Sir Elijah Impey was the first, you see, Chief Justice of this Supreme Court. So, an important act with certain important provisions. Therefore, as I pointed out, Regulating Act of 1773, as I pointed out in the, you see, very beginning of our slides, that this is an important act. You have to know the facets of this act, okay. You have to know the various facets belonging to this act, all right. Now, moving forward, this particular question belongs to the Government of India Act of 1858. Now, True, as I told you, it is one of the seminal acts, okay, the first of the Government of India acts that was passed, okay. It will be surpassed by the Government of India Act of 1919, then of course the Government of India Act of 1935. This is the first of the Government of India acts. Through this act, the Queen takes over the administration of India, the revenues of India and the army of India, and the company's rule is at an end, alright. So, by 1853, the Charter Act of 1853, it had already been intimated to the company that they are holding the possessions or they are holding the territory of British India. Or you see, they are just like a they are holding it in trust, okay. They are just like a trust body, all right, and they have been allowed to hold it through the consent of the British monarch. However, after the revolt of 1857, fingers started to be pointed, all right, and the British Parliament pointed fingers towards the misadministration of the company in India, and therefore, through the Queen's proclamation, it was made clear that the company's rule in India will come to an end, and the and the Queen will take over British India. And it is true, this Government of India Act of 1858, that the new organization, as I told you, new organizations, you have to look into those areas, okay. The new institution of the Secretary of State for India was instituted, all right. Secretary of State for India was instituted, and Board of Control and Court of Director were dissolved, okay. Board of Control, Court of Directors were dissolved. Now, since the Board of Control was dissolved, there need to be some linkages between the administration in India and the British Parliament. Who is going to be this linkage? The Secretary of State for India. And in his job, he is going to get assistance from the India Council, which is going to be a 15-member council, or which are experts in all matters relating to India, okay, the India Council. So, the correct answer to this question, which is the 15-member council that was to assist the Secretary of State for India, was known as the India Council. Now, there are other acts also, such as the 1853 Act, which is also important. The 1813 Act, okay, it is also important from the point of view that it allowed for the disbursement of 1 lakh rupee for public education, okay. So, this is also another facet which you have to look into, because it kicks off the whole Anglicist Orientalist debate, all right. The 1813 Act, which gets resolved finally with the passing of the Macaulay's Minute, all right. So, all of these areas you have to look into, and you have to look into properly, okay. Now, moving forward, of course, as you know, I end all of my sessions with a quote, okay, all of my question sessions at least with a quote, okay, and today's quote is, "Live your life as though your every act were to become a universal law." Okay, this is a profound statement which was made by Immanuel Kant, the great, you see, Western philosopher, okay, who begins this entire existential phase of philosophy, okay. Live your life as though your every act were to become a universal law. Now, what does this quote signifies? Of course, this quote signifies that every act that you do has a resonance, okay. Everything that you do has a resonance in history, because all of your acts is going to be an accumulative part of the history of mankind, and therefore do it properly. Think before you do something, okay. That's what Immanuel Kant is saying, okay. You have to think before you do something. You have to be very sure about what you are doing. Therefore, the universal law statement, okay, of Immanuel Kant. I hope you like this session, and as I keep on telling you, if you keep working hard, you will certainly reach success, okay. So, do not worry, just keep working hard, and of course, chill out.